Hey everyone, in the DeltaStrium community, we just recently changed our name from Exodus Games. This is the community manager Raovake. This time I will not have a camera set up. My computer that I'm using doesn't have one. We are doing the now third community podcast, Q&A for Stargate Evolution. So we already have our first member with their first question up. So what is your question, Shigoki?
Let's see. One of the most interesting questions, probably for all the fans of the Stargate series, would be what's the current status of the dialing animations?
So we have them mostly set up. There are still like timing issues and whatnot, but they are mostly displayed in the latest beta trailer for the full dialing animations for the Pegasus Gate, Milky Way Gate, and the Universe Gate. So the timings are a little off. The lights for Universe Gate look a little off, but they are coming along a whole lot more than the last time we ran a trailer. Drake, do you want to follow up?
Yeah, why not? The code itself is, it's mostly there. We need to make some more changes to the base parent, which we have. What we have one parent which controls all the gates. This is the way we had to do it. From that differed from SE1 to SE2. SE1, all the code was in the Pegasus gate, and that was it. And it was programmed for one gate and one gate only. What we've done since then is move it all to a base parent. This parent basically has all the code inside it, which controls the other gates. So they're children of this parent, say Pegasus, All In, Universe, Milky Way. They're all these children of the base parent. Now, what we have to do is each then child has to have its own set of code when it comes to animating the dialing. And sometimes, they don't play nice, especially with such an older version of Unreal Engine. It become a bit of a pain. So some of them are still not quite working where we want them, and it's more like Buck said, it's more to do with the timing. So we're thinking of introducing a different system to deal with the timings when it comes to animation speed. But Astrolam, I think, may need some stuff from me when it comes to an animation. We're going to try it with an animation file instead, where the gate rotates rather than doing it all through code. We can do it where I can make it in Blender and animate a full revolution of the rings and then put that animation in, and then we just do a playback through that, and that way we control the animation a little bit easier. As for the chevron lights, no, the universe gate lights, the chevrons themselves, the chevrons light up, the symbols themselves are not programmed properly yet. So some of that code was from me, and I am not the best coder, let's just say. I'm more into the art and design of it all, whereas Astrolam's more in the code. That's why he does most of that. But I did most of the stuff in the universe gate, hence why it's not working properly yet. But once Astrolam gets a look in on it, he will get it working as soon as possible.
I wanted to add a quick follow up on that. With the whole children thing. With the reason why we had to do that is otherwise the gates would only dial their own individual set. So Milky Way to Milky Way would only be how that would function if we didn't make a parent blueprint. Just wanted to add that in for anybody that'll be watching this on YouTube, since it will be edited and put onto YouTube later on. I also want to mention that we have two of the devs with us today, DrakeBD and VenomBD. So we've got some devs with us. Venom is working on our other projects, where Drake is working on Stargate Evolution and the rest of them as well. Did you have any other questions, Shigoki?
Let's see. So from what I heard, you are now currently in the community beta, right?
Yes, we have
Is
moved from a patron exclusive beta to the community in the Discord has access to the beta. So there's a link pinned in the announcement channel that they can access to it, and we also have a cluster of 4 servers up for the community to join and enjoy as well.
So as I'm a member of the Discord community, I could just sign up to the mod and download it for my own private servers, but anyone who's not on the Discord would probably not find it on the Steam Workshop, right?
Correct.
And I weigh in on that.
Yeah, weigh in.
I wouldn't advise running it on your own server. There is, on the mod page itself, there is kind of a warning against that, running it on a live server. We run it on a live server because technically our cluster was first designed in such a way that it was for testing purposes. But we decided, because we play it so much and it's a good way to live test, live find bugs and that, it's a good way for us to do it that way. But for your own private server, I would highly advise against it, because if we do something that breaks it, we could probably fix it on our own dedicated server with rollbacks or with, other methods, but you may not.
Yeah, but that's why I asked.
I wanted to jump in right there real quick. So currently there are issues with the dedicated version of it. The single-player version runs a whole lot smoother currently with dedicated, unless Drake fixed it in the update that came out when I was asleep.
I did not.
I didn't think so. So currently they barely do any dialing at all. Like the DHDs are wonky, the gates are wonky between each other. We think what happened is a little bit of extra testing code that wasn't finalized was brought into an update, and now it's also on into the mod and onto the server. So, like me and Venom, we can't even use really the gates. Drake's the only one that has halfway functions for them.
Because I placed them. I think it's kind of a situation where whoever places them can see the addresses, and then who doesn't, and then plus the names don't change unless we reboot the servers round, and there's a whole host of things. Sometimes the DHDs disconnect from the gates themselves. It's just a bit of a bit of a pain in the bum, but we're getting there with it now. Now we've got a good test environment, like it being on a dedicated. We can live test it, and this is what the whole reason for our dedicated servers is, so we can.
Yeah, the original problem was I was only ever able to test on single player, and a lot of the issues that are on single player aren't on dedicated, and the issues that pop up on dedicated aren't in single player. Like half of the issues that are in the servers for the gates aren't in single player at all.
Yeah, that's because of the way single player and dedicated work.
Yeah.
Dedicated works over a network where everybody is kind of they're all clients connected to the server. Now the server has to handle all the information, send the data off to the clients. In single player, it is solely dedicated, and there is no client. It's just single player, so that single player has admin privileges over everything. So if it places a gate, it can use it just as normal. Or you can use it, whichever. So that's where the problem lies. It's the communication between the server and the clients where it's kind of messing up a little bit. It's sending some of the data that we need, but not all of it.
Yeah. I do also want to add that for any of those interested in joining the servers we have, the ones we have are Lost Island, Fjordur, Aberration, and Genesis 2 are the maps we have. So with the way it goes is we have like easy, medium, hard maps. The easiest one is Lost Island, and the max dino level for Wild is 90. Just wanted to throw that out there real quick for anybody watching. Do you have any other questions, Shigoki?
Yeah, of course. When you announced the Stargate Evolution 2, one of the things that was in the talk was about new types of dialing devices, like the computer that is used in the Stargate Center in the original Stargate series, or the dialing device that is in Atlantis in the series, stuff like this. Is that still something that will probably be added?
You want to take that one, Drake?
I'll take that one, yeah. Right, the SGC dialing computer is already in the beta. It can be placed, and it can control any gate. The original DHDs, like the Milky Way, the Pegasus, the Universe, they can only control their actual gate they're designed for. The Atlantis one I have been working on, but I've just been having a few issues with the. I have the model and everything like that, but for some unknown reason, the UV mapping for the buttons is, well, a little off, to say the least. So I may have to get that into Blender, but I haven't worked on that for a while. I did a quick work on it, and I've just been trying to fix as many bugs as I can. So it's not been kind of up there in the top priority because we do have DHDs and the gates can dial in single player technically, and they can dial in multiplayer, but kind of the person controls them is the one who placed them.
Do we plan to also add the Universe DHD?
The Universe DHD, so that would be the like the control panel, wouldn't it?
The control panel thing.
Yes, I do have a model for it, and I suppose it's something that could be added. But again, it's not up there in the top priority. The main priority at the minute is getting basically as many bugs squashed as we can and getting the beta release ready for its RC release, which will be obviously the release candidate. So it'll switch from beta to release candidate. When it goes release candidate, it will be obviously more, well, usable to say the least. And then when we go from the RC to the full release, there'll be a trailer done on the run up to it, and it'll then just be enough. It'll be cooked as a new mod. The beta will not turn into the full version. The beta will stay beta, and there will be a new one cooked in a new with a new mod ID and pushed out that way.
So
anybody running the beta.
Go ahead.
So anyone else who's running the beta would be advised not to run beta and the released version at the same time. That will cause some major issues. So just in case I swap them out. Go on. I'm done. You're next.
Okay, so I also wanted to mention that the level differences for the servers real quick. Lost Island is 90, Fjorder and Aberration are 190. And Genesis 2 is 300. Had to be reminded what the exact numbers were. Anyways, so as for with the Stargate and whatnot stuff, we also are slowly working on getting the rings to function in the beta again.
That would have been my next question.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be either the next one or in the list. So for the beta,
let him ask the question.
Yeah. It's just I was thinking about it as you guys were talking. So go ahead. What's the question?
One of the things that was supposed to happen with Stargate Evolution 2 was also a total overhaul of the ring system, where you would be able to dial rings, just like in the show, with a dialing device, and could basically set up a hub for ring teleportation without needing to put down like 10, 20 rings in a room and name them appropriately, but instead just dialing them with these devices that are on the vaults in the series. That was a plan, right?
Who do you want to take that one, Drake? Me or you?
I'll take it. The main plan for I've now created the parent for the rings, and I've set up the two children so that they are sort of functioning, but they kind of teleport within each other, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It gets stuck in this teleportation loop, and it's a bit messy. It's hilarious, to be fair. While we're watching the dev kit, it's like the rings come up, you get put in place, and then it's back over to the other ring, and back to the other ring. It just keeps doing it backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. It gets stuck. But the plan is, yes, to have some form of thing you can put on the wall to get them to dial a specific one, or give you a list of rings in range, and then basically pick the ring you want to go to. So as long as you've named each ring, you can then teleport to that ring. That's the idea. But initially, it's just to get them working, same way they did before, but in a parent to children system. So there's one set of code that runs both sets of rings.
But the distances that ring works between each other, that will likely not change as much, right?
Likely not, but it'll be configurable in an INI.
I mean, if you say you have a bigger base, and the two rings that are in the most distance from each other in that big base are just slightly out of reach from the vanilla, you can just set that in your configuration file then.
Yes. That will be the idea. Yeah, you'll just be able to just increase your range a little bit, but only to a maximum. We'll have a maximum ring range that you will not be able to go past, because obviously if we did allow it just to go infinitely, it would kind of make the gates redundant.
Yeah, we wouldn't need the gates if we could just
Yeah,
put
exactly.
rings
Just
everywhere.
just step on a ring and
Also-
woof.
Also, any intruder could get into your base by just building a ring inside their base and dialing yours.
I will be. Here's a little sneaky peek for you. We'll be making the ring covers configurable. So basically, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to go up to a ring cover and you'll be able to make it invisible, or it may take the shape of a rock or something totally conspicuous, so you can hide rings places. So like in some of the shows, the rings came up through the floor and you didn't actually know where they were, like the secret base for the oh god, what were they called now?
Tok'ra?
The name. That's it, the Tok'ra. The Tok'ra ones, they rings were hidden, weren't they, under the sand? So we figured that the best way to do that is just to hide the up and down mesh. So obviously the person who placed it will know exactly where they are. The tribes will know exactly where they are, but we'll get it so it's configurable. So like a stone or a special something will appear or make it look like just a random piece of grass.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to making new traps with rings that are hidden in the ground.
But
I mean, imagine that. You build a ring somewhere, hide it, people don't see it. They chase you. You run around the ring, they follow you, run into the rings, and get teleported into a volcano. Nice!
Yeah, there is that. But I'm thinking of making it so that you have to, you'll have a new device, basically, like a trigger switch, kind of like the detonator. I'll kind of link it to the detonator that you push it and it can call the rings. So you can either have them set to walk on automatically, or people can then walk over them freely, and then you if you know where they are, you'll stand on them, and then you'll press the ring call button, which will call the rings up.
Nice. Even better.
I also want to mention that we will be trying to figure out and work on the current rendering issue that is with the rings. So if one side of the rings is outside of render range, and this happens when you change the INI config setting to extend their range, the other side of the other rings doesn't really connect with the one you're dialing from. At least that's a current issue. So we will be working on that as well with the SC2 with the rings. Are there any other questions? Don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, and I'm sorry if I don't, but Vakarian, do you have a question since you recently joined?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, pop your hands up, and we can bring you onto the stage to ask them. I think he's just listening. He's just coming for a listen. Yeah.
It's either that or he's not figured it out because the wave's kind of weird.
Well, until he figures out, I can pop up another question.
Sure.
What's the status on the puddle jumper or other Stargate themed things that are still supposed to go into the game?
So our priority has been for a very long time to simply get the gate overhaul fixed, finished, and fleshed out. So beyond that, and some minor work with rings and really minor work with model changes and little things like that. Like the ingots, the look of the ingots changed, for example. We've not done much beyond the gates overhaul yet, simply because of the amount of work and effort that has had to go into it. And we still need to figure out the animations and different things. Once we can figure out a solid way of doing the animations, anything that needs animations will go a whole lot faster. Do you want to follow up with that, Drake?
Well, yeah, I can do. Obviously, some of the stuff doesn't need animation. So, like the wraith dart, that won't need animations. We do have the models for the wraith dart, the puddle jumper itself, the what is it? The X something.
The X302.
That's it. We've got the model for the X302.
Wow.
And obviously, the X302 has animations, but it's just a case of getting that workflow in place because our main priority has been that getting the gates working. We want to get this out to you guys as quick as possible. And the main way to do that is to concentrate on what matters the most to the community, and that would be the gates, the rings, making sure everything is kind of bug free up to a point. Once we get it to that stage, we will then start to add additional content. It'll be at a much slower pace, mind you, because obviously we do have the other projects to do that they take some time as well. And we're just it's just a balancing act between all the different projects.
Can't wait to run around with a Z weapon.
Yeah, weapons, that is another thing entirely. Again, that is down to the animation workflow. And once we've nailed that down, then I can imagine us getting the weapons and stuff in. In the editor, I do have a working staff weapon.
Ooh.
It does work to a degree, but it works more like... It doesn't fire a bolt yet. So I can obviously say that as a little sneaky peeky to anybody in the QA.
Yeah, or that actually watches the video on YouTube.
Or who watches the video on YouTube.
Yeah, so Slacker Dude, do you want to raise your hand and have a question? Shigoki, do you want to quickly explain where the hand is? Because I never see it. I'm always running them.
It's the top right corner. Top right corner, the little... Oh, no.
There we go.
There we go. Yep.
No, I don't have any questions. And on Discord and saw that the Q&A was in session and thought I would listen in some. I've not yet joined the servers to be able to test the new stuff, although I'm very anxious to do that. I was going to see if I could maybe get that to happen here in a few minutes. But I just wanted to say I'm very interested, very excited for this mod. Thank you guys for all the work you've already done. And I look forward to the things that are coming.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. If you need any help to figure out the getting into this server stuff, let me know and I can help with that. Some things are easy. Some methods to getting in are easier than others. So, and he's got a more difficult method set up currently. So if there's any issues with anybody in the community getting into the servers, I can help you guys get in a little easier.
There is an easier method. If you search in unofficial and search for DeltaStrium, it should just pop up our servers.
It won't.
It won't.
Should be able to just simply add it to favorites, right?
That's the easy method. That's what I was talking about. He has it set up with the Steam Connect, so that's Steam Connect's nightmare. Adding to favorites is a billion times easier.
That's what I was planning on doing. So if it gives me issues, I will let you know for sure.
Okay. And if there's any mod mismatch, I don't think anything's been updated since the last time he's updated the server. But if it does, let me know and we can walk through that. If a server needs updating, the only person that can do that is Drake himself.
All right.
So you're welcome to continue to stay and listen in, or do whichever you like. But if you have a question, go ahead and request to speak again. I'm going to move you back to audience.
That's fine. Thank you.
No problem. So, Vocarian, since the hand is at the top right, if you've got a question, go ahead and you can click it. Until then, Shigoki, do you have another question?
Can I ask a question about the other mods that you have on the on your community?
I actually plan to do individual Q&As for the mods, so there will be another one for balanced narcotics, and there will be another one for balanced cooking. Just need to figure out when to do it, as in real life, don't know when it's going to happen, but where we live is going to have to be tented for termites for about 3 days in a row. So I don't want to plan anything and then have to change it.
Yeah, no, then
but we will. Topic, right? I will be doing a Q&A for both balanced narcotics and balanced cooking. And if there's any new suggestions or anything for balanced kibble or bugs or anything, then we might do one for balanced kibble as well. But so far, it looks like it's kind of set in stone.
It's pretty much working. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I've seen, like somebody wants the level reduced. I don't know if we're going to consider that with the other things that the mod can give you. But beyond that, we will have individual Q&As for each of our projects. And I also wanted to add that Venom BD, since she is currently in the audience but also on the team, wants to say thank you to Slacker Dude and anybody else that has the same kind of sentiment that you do. Any other questions? I could probably have this run for who knows how long. I don't have a problem with it. Questions.
Oh, I like that. Okay, I'm asking a troll question just for the fun of it. In the case that you actually manage to implement the Z weapon into the game, and I join one of your servers, can I try speedrunning how long it takes for me to piss you off until you kick me from the server?
Drake, I'm leaving that for you.
About 0.2 seconds. Don't push it.
Hey, I just needed to ask a question like that for the funsies, okay?
It is funny. It is funny, but yeah, let's not intentionally try to be problematic, though.
Why should I? But so much things that you could.
You have
do
your own
with
servers
that
for that. You have your own servers for that.
I tried that.
Well, when we get to the weapons,
way in here.
Go ahead.
But since I'm there.
When the Zat guns do eventually come around, there will be ways and means to mitigate their effects. So you won't be just instantly like God going around zatting everybody and hoping for the best, because there will be ways to counteract the Zat gun. We have to, as much as we have to stay with the law of Stargate universe and how it's and then keep within the canon, we also have to keep within the law and the canon of ARK itself.
And the balance.
And the balance between it. So if we cannot make something that's too OP, that basically somebody could just be a god, go around zatting everyone, and then if one's that they're on the floor, two's that they're dead, you know what I mean? It's just not. It's not good for gameplay, and it certainly will not be good for a server. I can imagine that kind of device would be banned from the server pretty quickly.
Yeah.
What we could consider is, I don't know if Drake would want to do this, but what we could consider, since this is our core mod for Stargate, and this is how and where we do all of okay, so balance between lore, balance between Stargate and game and whatnot. I don't know if Drake would want to consider this or not, but then I don't know if this is even possible with the dev kit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Drake. But having a mod that having a separate mod that would, in a sense, like take priority if you have it with SE, and it would adjust. Okay, the Zat in lore would actually function as this, and it could affect it. I don't know if that's possible, or if we would even want to do that, but it's a thought. You want to follow up on that one, Drake?
Yeah.
Ask me what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Okay.
We can make mods that depend on other mods. Now, balanced cooking itself is a prime example of that. In itself, if you had just that mod, you would not see balanced kibbles inside the cooker. But because when it's paired with it, you can then craft inside the cooker balanced kibbles. Yeah. If you didn't have balanced kibble installed, it functions as a cooking pot with everything that you can cook, but it mitigates and gets rid of the kibbles from balanced kibble. But the minute you install them both, they kind of work with each other. Well, yeah, you can have the basic kibbles from vanilla, but the minute you install balanced kibbles, also balanced kibbles ones are in the the Cooking Pot Plus as well. So there is ways to do that with mods, to basically make them kind of depend on each other a little bit, and also be kind of cross, as long as we have the source of that mod. So we couldn't do it, say, like Structures Plus or Superstructures and use stuff from that, because, well, we don't have the source code for it. But we could with the ones we use or develop. So developing something alongside that adds extras, yeah, we can do that.
What I mean is, like, say we have the ZAT set up, and say it takes multiple shots to the same thing that multiple shots to stun or kill or disintegrate or whatever. But if we made a second mod where it could adjust the ZAT to being what it is in Stargate lore by itself and not adjusted for ARK, would we want to consider doing that for different items like that we have chosen to alter from Stargate lore to balance into the gameplay?
Yeah, I suppose that's what. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what I was getting at. We can make a mod to make changes to Stargate Evolution 2 stuff, basically.
You
It
said
can be
can, not might, is what I'm referring to.
Yeah, because we can.
Okay. I
There is
just
no
wanted
might
to.
there, we can, because we do it already. Like I say, I give you the prime example with the BC and the BK.
Yeah.
That is the same way we would do it if we were going to create a lore add-on. So say if we set Stargate SE2 as basically a balance between ARK and lore, but then we could create a mod afterwards that is called the lore mod that just sets everything to exactly like lore is.
Well, there, Shigoki, that would solve what you want to do, and what others might as well.
But if you say you want to be you want to make the gun exactly as what it is in the series, that would maybe kind of be a lot of work for you, because if you've watched the entire Stargate franchise, the Z weapon is basically a MacGyver tool. If you look at what they if you look at what they did with that thing, they opened locked doors with it, they disabled electric devices with it. So
I mean, we can push it as far as that the ARK dev kit will allow us. We're more referring to how close push for if we did a second mod, pushing how far and how close we could get it to Stargate lore. Instead of having just the SE2 a balance between ARK and Stargate, if we did a second mod that adjusted things in Stargate in SE2, where, like, for example, instead of having to do multiple shots just to stun with the ZAT gun, and then it's just 1 to stun, 2 to kill, 3 to disintegrate for the alternate mod, that's a whole lot closer to the way Stargate would normally function versus how ARK's gameplay would function. So and we can only push it as far as the dev kit will allow us. So if the dev kit won't let us, we can't do it, kind of thing. But we could possibly see about doing a second mod later down the road to make it more towards Stargate lore for those that really want to push that kind of thing. But leave SC2 as the middle ground balance, and just have the other mod require SC2 to function. And then the other mod will just essentially override and make changes to SC2 to make it more canon for Stargate.
Weigh in a minute.
Go ahead.
There is a lot we can do with the dev kit. I mean, don't get us wrong here with saying no, we're limited with the dev kit. We are limited to a degree. We can't inject C++ code directly into it because that's all locked off. But anything we can do in graph work, we can make happen. And it's only down to our imaginations what we can do. It's like the recent update with the Lantean Fabricator. Some of the magic that we did inside that was pretty Well, I don't think it's ever been done before, to be fair. I don't recall a mod ever doing it, to be
No,
honest.
I've not seen it. And what I mean is, all I'm saying is, if we can't do it in the dev kit, we can't do it. Like that's our broad limitation kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't have enough knowledge of the dev kit to say what we can and can't do. I can only say, well, if the dev kit won't let us do it, we can't. Not saying that we actually can't. Just wanted to clarify that part. We have now bulk biceps and the Hawkeye. Do either of you have a question you want to add? There is a hand in the top right of the screen. If you have a question, you can click it to request to speak, and I can accept it. And bulk biceps. Okay, bulk biceps. Welcome to the Q&A podcast. What question do you have, or what would you like to say?
Ground control to Major Tom.
Do you have a mic and whatnot set up? Because I don't know if you're speaking, but
Oh, so I had it pushed to talk.
okay, that would be why.
Yeah, but yeah, I saw the notification you guys were casting, so I was curious what you had going on with the development. But I caught the tail end of what you had said about you were kind of limited in terms of like say C++. Have you taken a look at maybe something like DLL injection, like a lot of the plugin developers utilize?
Now, that is... It's classed as game hacking, and chances are you do that and then BattlEye will kick you.
Ah, I see.
So we wouldn't really want to be messing about with DLL injection because we can't package that into the workshop.
Right.
That would kind of like be we don't want to link our mod with having to download something else specifically to get it to work. It just opens up a whole can of worms. Plus, then, like I said, BattlEye would probably have a bit of a fit, and people would be getting banned because of our mod, and yeah, not good.
Yeah, I've only seen it done with like UI kind of things before with plugins, ARK Shop and Items Plus, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it'll work client side, but I think server side stuff, and a lot of our mod relies on server side stuff.
Yeah, that would definitely require a server side API framework to run.
Yes, and some of that, yeah, just whole paperwork that we don't really need, but we're not massively limited by the dev kit anyway. It's just a pain to work with sometimes because it likes to crash. It likes to have a fit now and again, and some things don't work, or it's what we would class as janky. So it
Sounds
just
like a typical
weird.
day in ARK.
Yes, yeah, very typical day in ARK. That's why we're kind of looking forward to the rumours that it may get switched to UE5. If that happens, that will definitely make things a lot easier for us. But that's another topic entirely, and not SE. So
Yeah, that'd open up a whole kind of other things. You have bulk biceps. While you're as a speaker, do you have any other questions you wanted to ask?
I don't have any at the moment, so I'll just hop off here and continue listening in.
Okay. Did anybody have any other questions? You can either raise your hand or have most of the questions already been answered so far.
Nobody else has a question. I need to ask the obligatory question.
Go for
Slacker dude does. But go on, you first.
Okay. Well, the obligatory question: traveling between servers with the gates. That has been asked so many times. And before you get spammed with that question again.
I think that question has been asked in the previous 2 Q&As as well. It's asked every time.
Yes, it's asked every time.
Do you want to take that one, Drake? Since you probably understand it better than I would anyway.
Let's flesh this down to its technicals. Its technicals are simple, really. Servers are standalone things. Obviously, they have the mods, and they have specifically SE2 on, right? Each mod has to have a version of this mod on. And when we make the gates are stored into a kind of like an actor which has a list of all the gate addresses. Now, the problem with having cross travel is there's no communication from server to server. The only communication that happens is when you upload your character, you actually send it to a folder on the computer it's on, and then it's re-downloaded to the other server that you're traveling to. What this means then for us and setting up cross travel is we would need a separate web page or server of our own to have a list of basically every server out there that runs SEs2 of all their gate addresses for all their clusters. This is how I would envision it. Anyway, I mean, Astrolamp's not here, but I'm sure you could probably think of different doing it. But from my technical knowledge, I can only think of doing it really this way, and that's basically having the cluster ID on our servers listen to any gate addresses that are done, and then list them all. So basically you'll be able to then dial any address on any given server, because it's not like just traveling from one server to another, is it? When you travel, you appear in a bed, or you appear at an obelisk, or you spawn randomly on a beach. Whereas ours, you would travel through a gate to another gate on another server. Now that's where the problem lies, the communication between server and which address you're going to, which gate you're going to. I suppose we could have it so in such a way where it brings up a list of all gates on the map, similar to the way it does with the beds. But you're not really dialing, are you? And the gate that you appear at, I suppose we'd have to have a phantom dialing system if we didn't want to go the server way. There's just a couple of ways we can do it if we are to do it at all, but it would just the amount of work involved would be huge, and we don't know if it's doable.
But let's say giving the gate some kind of options that are basically what you have with the tech terminals that allow server travel. Adding that to the gates, that kind of functionality, that in theory would be possible, so that they work. Like
adding the UI for that wouldn't be an issue. The issue would be the actual connecting of gates together. Because the terminal, you're still with the transmitter, you're still just going to end up on a beach spawn point or a bed. There's no either or. There's no difference between it. So, getting a third option for the gate, and even more specifically, maybe a specific gate, is where the issue in the whole system would lie. We've seen a bunch of different suggestions for it. We've seen different things, API. We've seen different uses of cluster folders, and I don't understand a lot of that. But like he was saying earlier, API or at least it was DLL injections can kick up BattleEye to be like, okay, what are you doing? And you can get banned. So if we did anything like that where it would trigger it, they would have to literally run without BattleEye. And I know a lot of people like to have BattleEye running. I don't like it at all. But everybody's got a different preference on why or why not. So that's kind of where that sits. It's still not exactly at the forefront priority anyway. We're just focusing on getting the actual gates to function, getting them all implemented. Then the next thing we're going to work on is the ring overhaul. Getting that set up where you don't need to have a massive room of 10, 20 rings to go all over the place. You can have one and be able to dial to the gate, to the ring you want, like the gates are. So, Slacker Dude wants to say something, either a question or a statement, and he's been patiently waiting, so I'm going to jump him over to speak.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Wow. So my original question is going to be my question number 2 now, I guess, because of what Shigoki opened up just now. And I have to say, I'm not a coder. I'm not a programmer anymore at all. I really don't dip my toes into that anymore at all. But I was unaware of the depth and breadth of the scope that you guys were considering regarding server travel with the gate. I mean, yes, it would be one thing to be able to make it function like a transmitter, or if you're going to go do that from, say, one of the obelisks or whatever in game. That, again, as you said, you spawn to a location, a bed or random spawn, whatever, but you're talking about actually implementing the ability, possibly, of actually going to a targeted gate on the other server. I don't know how that would be done. I mean, that's a heck of an undertaking, actually, and my hat's off to you if you figure that out. But
like I say, there is a couple of ways to do. We could possibly do it. The one is, like I say, an external website that has a list of all gate addresses from all servers that run our mod. The other way is obviously possibly having all gate addresses listed within the cluster folder, and then it pull the data from that to see if it can target a gate on another server and dial it on that server. But yeah, like I say, it's just
very
we
much,
just don't know.
yeah, a lot of overhead involved in that. I mean, one way, as you propose, involves you guys maintaining a server, a very heavy database of all of the possible gateways on all the different clusters and all the, that could be out there. That's all on you guys, which would be both labor intensive and costly, I'm sure. The other way, I mean, there's another mod that's called like Structure Saver. You may or may not be familiar with. Basically, it just relies simply on a common folder that you, as a user, set up that has, it's a common folder to the clusters you have established. That's on the user end of it. Possibly that could be implemented in such a way that once you actually transfer to the server itself, then it could look at that folder to see, oh, there's the addresses of the different gateways on this server, and this is the one that we want to send them to. I don't know that would be possible even, but fascinating. That wasn't my actual question. No, it was just, I was listening to the exchange here. I was like, that's a lot of work.
If we were to do server transfers through the gates, I would not personally suggest doing a website. I would do it based off of cluster folder. And the reason is, one, there's not really a way for information between outside of a cluster to get into a cluster. So that's not really going to work with that. I've not seen it where it works. I know that there's like the Dino auction where it does all of that. But it's different than like transferring, going through. It can be really weird doing all of that.
If I remember rightly,
I can
there
imagine
was
it
a
is.
mod which could communicate outside of the servers themselves, and they communicated to a website. It was one of the, basically we could sell dinos. Don't know if you remember.
Yeah, it's the auction mod.
No, the option mod.
Auction,
that's it. Yeah, they ran it through a website.
Oh, I even know that one.
Yeah, so I know about
that
in
a similar way.
But its function is very different since the player isn't going through, and it's not actually. It's I don't know how to explain it, but to me, the way it seems is going to be very different than what we would be trying to do, because we're trying to transfer player and whatever they've gotten, everything else, all of it, to another server.
It's done in a similar method. It's just data at the end of the day. When you transfer your character, there is a folder on your thing, a cluster folder, and inside that folder, your character is downloaded to.
Yeah.
So it's
but
very
accessing outside of clusters can be tricky, and it also would. And I also, as a person that's ran different servers, I wouldn't want that to be a thing.
Right. But otherwise, that could be potentially a security issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'd have a security issue probably.
Like
so I think the
cluster folder would be the only way it should be implemented. Going beyond that, like if you have, say, them on, say, a PvP map, and you have somebody that has a super bred Giga, for an example, on a PvE map, and they want it, and able to take it to that PvP map, it will be a nightmare. So, because PvP maps, you don't have a whole lot to worry about, and you can just keep doing it, keep breeding, and you can have a monster of a creature. Just why I say it. If we did it, be cluster only.
Right,
Yeah,
and that would make more sense. Otherwise, it's operating like a true Stargate, where you could go anywhere as long as you had the destination coordinates, which would be, like you said, it would just be opening Pandora's box.
Yeah.
My actual question, though, I'm sorry, guys, go ahead.
One more thing. We could possibly make that set up as a alternate mod where it's an option, maybe.
Yeah, don't make it more.
I wouldn't even do that with that. Anyways, sorry for the back and forth with all of that. What's your question?
Oh, pretty tame by comparison to the previous discussion, but it's a question that refers back to the balanced narcotics. I'm looking through
We
the
will be
various
doing
things.
a specific. We will be doing different Q&As for balanced narcotics and a one for balanced cooking. So any questions for those two mods will need to wait for their specific Q&A.
Oh, I see, no problem. Okay, then, thank you.
I like to keep it specific as much as we can.
Topic orientated.
Yeah. And the current topic is Stargate Evolution 2. Did you have a question for Stargate Evolution 2?
No further questions, thanks.
Okay, no problem. Does anybody else have a question? I've noticed Raven Grob has joined as well. Thank you for joining the Q&A. Does anybody have a question? To request to speak, there is a hand at the top right, and you would click it. And then when I accept, you can accept the invite.
Any questions welcome, as long as it's about SE2.
Yeah.
Or SE1.
And if we've already answered it, I'll just say we've already answered it, and it'll be in the video when it gets uploaded.
By now, you should have about an hour of audio material.
Probably.
Yeah, roughly.
So I see nobody else has a question from the audience. Do you have another one, Shigoki? Because I get the feeling you do.
Can I interject here?
Sure.
If you take a look in the SE chit chat, we have something from Hawkeye. Who's
Okay, so
in the channel at the minute.
Okay, so he's typed it down there.
Yeah, he's typed it down there, so I think we can address that. And then Raven Grob will be up next.
So, okay, so first, the bug channels are currently locked, since we have a separate area for the beta bugs. So all of the is this bug for live or SE2?
SE1 or SE2? SE1.
Okay.
That will not be a thing anymore.
Yeah,
that
so
bug is
the
fixed,
reason why the bug and suggestion channels are locked for it is because by this point we've essentially either fixed the issues or added the suggestions, or they've been documented elsewhere, and they essentially got everything that can be got.
SE1 itself is discontinued now.
Yeah.
We will no longer be supporting it. Barring a real edge case scenario, if SE2 is not out, that we wouldn't issue another fix for it. So, but any bugs to do with the gates are highly likely to be fixed now because of the entire code's been changed. It's so very, very different to SE1. That specific bug you're looking at there just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. So most of the issues and bugs or suggestions for SE1 has already been documented in ClickUp or dealt with or otherwise. And that's the big reason why the channels are locked. And if you check the pinned messages in each of those channels, it'll tell you what to do. It'll specify what to do and how to handle that.
Okay, Raving Grob is up next.
Yep. Okay, invite sent.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Not too bad.
Just real quick, I don't know if it's been discussed before. I was curious, did you guys have any desire once ARK 2 releases to try to bring it over there?
Our answer for that is mostly going to depend on what kind of game they make. What kind of game is ARK 2 actually going to be?
Right.
So until ARK 2 comes out, we can't really give a straight answer.
Understandable. I was just wondering.
If it's
Can I,
anything similar or doable to what ARK 1 is, then it's possible. But that's still about as far as we can say so far.
Can I interject there with the technicalities of that?
Yeah.
Right, so ARK 2 comes out. Yep, all great. They bring out the modding kit. Fantastic. We would literally have to... It's not going to be a case of porting the mod over to it. We would have to rebuild it from scratch.
Right.
To work on with ARK 2 and that dev kit. So that is like Raovake says, going to be very dependent on what kind of game it is and if it's even worth our time or we want to do it. Basically, we're on top of all the other projects that we will probably have by then. Not just mods themselves, but obviously, as some people may know, we do are kind of aiming towards our own things, which will come later on in the pipeline. But as for there is some rumours that obviously ARK 1 will be getting upgraded to UE5. If that is the case and that does happen, we will port it to UE5 for ARK 1.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Any more?
No.
Okay. Anyone else have more questions? Anybody that has a question that hasn't spoken yet, more than welcome to do so. Do you have any other questions, Shigoki?
Yeah, since Stargate Evolutions are basically now two mods, the old one SE1 and the new one SE2, at some point players will need to replace the old one with the new one. And how will you exactly do that? Will you install the SE2 together with SE1, replace the gates one by one manually, or will you have some option into the mod that the SE2 can recognize if SE1 is running on the server and give admins an option to replace all gates and DHDs using a script or something like that?
Can take this one, Raovake.
Yeah, I was going to say you can take this one.
We were going to make it so that it was just literally interchangeable, so you could upgrade to the newest version, remove one and replace with two. But problem happened when we were testing. We were doing tests on single player and multiplayer as to whether that would work. And what happened is we'd find that the gates would just crash. It would just literally crash the maps. So that is why we chose to do a new naming convention for all of SE2. So every single item in that mod has had its names changed. So that means you will be able to run them consecutively next to each other without any conflict of any kind, and you'll have to replace the gates one by one, sadly. It was the only way around. That is why we decided to switch it to SE2 and actually make SE2 rather than doing an upgrade from SE1 because of that crashing.
I do want to mention that the resource nodes that pop up and the resources will look identical. The only difference will be the stack sizes for most of the resources.
Yep, and the fact that they will not be compatible with each other. So if you say you got a Nakoda ore from SE1 and had a Nakoda ore from SE2, the minute you removed SE1, any SE1 Nakoda would disappear. Sadly, apologies for that, but
Can't be helped. Can't be helped. There are too many differences between how the gates work in SE1 and SE2.
yes, massive, huge amounts of difference.
Yeah,
There's a difference with everything
huge.
now. There's so far ahead of SE1. There's just differences across the board with every structure.
I also wanted to, I know it's not been a question, and I also know that I didn't have it in the trailer, but do you want to mention the interface? Drake?
The ZPM interface.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that wasn't in the
for-
trailer.
No, it wasn't. And it's for one thing and one thing only. It's not a power source to power your base. It will be a power source to power your gate. If you do not have, basically, for want of a better word, if you don't have a DHD crystal.
What interface are we talking about now?
Do you remember in SG1 when O'Neill had the ancient database downloaded into his brain and he built a little thing to go to the Asgard? In the future episodes, they built a ZPM interface where it essentially did the same thing, but you could stick a ZPM in it. That's what we're making, and you can attach that to a Stargate.
Ah, okay. So basically, if you don't have a gate, the gate crystal that goes into the DHD, you can use that as a replacement.
Yes, or you'll be able to use a Nakoda reactor.
But the alternative DHDs, like the Stargate computer, those will work the same way like the DHDs and require a gate crystal, right?
The Stargate computer will not hold a DHD crystal.
So will the Stargate computer need that other device then?
The Stargate computer will need some servers as well. You will not be eventually you will not be using it as a standalone thing. You will need at least 3 servers to go with it.
Okay.
Servers are another structure that gets tied to the dialing computer. And I do want to give a little disclaimer that the SGC dialing computer isn't a big bulky computer. It's a flat screen and a keyboard.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's not quite canon, but we get what we can work with.
Yeah, we're doing it this way because early game players can basically, the new procedural generation system, you could actually find a gate buried underground.
I've found about 3 gates, 4 DHDs, and a ZPM in the ground.
Yeah. So you can find these items, but you will not be able to power them up without some means of powering them. So using the SGC computer is one of the first kind of DHDs you can make. That will then allow you to power the gate up if you have, say, like the servers you've built, and maybe you've found a ZPM, and then you could build the interface, and you can interface with it, or you could power it through a Nakoda reactor or other things. This is long before you get your DHDs or the crystal.
And the Orlin gate is also the first gate you unlock.
Yes, that is obviously the size of a person, enough to fit somebody through, but there is a caveat with that gate. Every time you use it to dial out from, it takes damage.
So you have to repair it.
So you have to repair it. Now that goes in law with canon. Obviously, you saw All-In only use that gate once and then it burnt out. Now, obviously, we didn't want it to be that way because we've still got to keep it in balance with ARK itself. You know, using it once and then it burning out is kind of a bit of a pain in the bum. So the way we did it is it takes a certain amount of damage for every dial.
But the gate that Orlin built also only dialed a single address, right?
Yeah, but again, we've had to kind of allow it to dial any gate. Because don't forget, Orlin would have been able to dial any address he wanted. really, technically.
So, do you dial that with the SGC computer
Yes.
then, or?
Yep. You can dial that with the SGC computer. Both
Or-
All-In and the SGC computer unlock the same level.
Or if you have one, the PDA, right?
You won't get the PDA till later on.
But in theory, if you have one.
In
Yes.
theory, yes, if you have one, it will dial the PDA, and the SGC dialing computer can dial all gate types.
On the topic of PDA, what about a device that controls the iris? Like basically, you close your iris on your home gate, dial your home gate from wherever you are, and then use a device to open the iris, like the Stargate teams use to open the
GDO.
iris in their home base.
It's
Yeah.
called the GDO, and yes, we do
The
have a
garage
model
door
for it.
opener.
Yeah, we've got a model for it, and it's just a case of getting it in the game, and that kind of ties in with animations as well, because obviously we have to have it tied to the player's skeleton, so you can see it on your hand. I mean, we could do it as just an item in your bottom bar that you can activate and bring up a UI, I guess, in the early stages, but eventually you kind of want it on.
Yeah,
And how-
to get it in and implemented, I would say probably have it as an item on the item bar first, and then as it progresses, we can work on the animations for it. That's the way I would do it.
I mean, there was a way we might be able to do it just through a static mesh, and that's to attach it to the implant socket, because the implant in the character's arms, technically, it's a separate mesh that's attached to a socket on the skeleton of the character. So I'm hoping I can do it that way. If I can do it that way, it makes life a lot easier, because I just attach the mesh to the socket, and there we go. But I haven't looked into it fully yet in order to know if I can or I can't.
So about functionality of the GDO.
Before you, I want to see if anybody else has a question. I want to give everybody a chance, even if they don't have a question. Discussing something might make them get an idea of one. So if anybody else has a question, please feel free to click the hand icon. Okay, so I'll take that as a no. Go ahead, Shogoki. I just want to try to be fair for everybody to answer any questions everyone has.
Yes, about GDO functionality. Since, according to lore, this device sends a code, only people who know the code should be able to open the iris. So, if someone decides to take a GDO from a dead player, can he open the iris of someone else's base, or do you need to be in the tribe that owns the gate to open an iris?
You want to take that one, Drake?
Yeah, there is a couple of ways we can do it. There is the simple way of basically making it so that as soon as the gate dials up and establishes its connection, you kind of access it the same way you do the DHDs, and have basically two switches in a UI that say one that says origin gate iris and destination gate iris, and just basically flick them on and off. Or we can have, now this is going to be very much on programming, whether we add it to the gates logic itself, which we would have to do, that a player would have to set a code inside the gate itself, and then obviously then we would be able to do it with code, this code that you attach it to the GDO, and then transmit that code, and then that GDO would only work with that specific code that you use. So it's just kind of like renaming a structure, similar way, I guess, but you're just setting the code name for your iris, and then typing in the code name for your iris into the GDO. But obviously, yes, again, that would be saved, and then if somebody did steal that GDO, then possibly it would be saved to that. But I don't know. That's going to be, again, limitations on ARK, and whether we can do it that way, or whether it just does it the tribe way.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, because the tribe way would be in theory the easiest method, as if you belong to a tribe, it would be natural that you know the code. And if you don't belong to the tribe, even if you steal the GDO, you can't use it to open the iris because you don't know the code.
Exactly.
That would be in compliance with
Yeah.
what the use of that thing actually is.
But this is where we fall into the difference between the ARK editor, ARK law, and obviously Stargate and Stargate law, and whether it's doable to create it within law of Stargate and ARK. And we haven't looked into it enough to give a definitive answer on it because it's not been up there on the priority level. And until we do, it's not really something we can give much information on other than the technical know-how of how we could possibly implement such a thing. Hope that answers your question. Ish.
It does.
Any other questions?
I feel I should probably stop with the questions.
My main thing is just give a pause when I ask, or after your previous one has been answered. Give a pause so I can ask if anybody else has any, just to make sure that everybody gets a chance.
Yeah, but with how many questions I asked already, I think we have covered quite the most of what people probably would want to ask.
Not necessarily, but it's possible, but not necessarily. Somebody could be thinking about something just a little bit differently, and, well, they have a question. So that's why I like to give the chance anyway. So if anybody has any questions, if not, then I will see if Shagoki has another one.
I think Vakarian is just here to listen.
Which is perfectly fine. I just want to make sure I
Hey,
give everyone a chance. So then, Shagoki, do you have another question?
I think I probably call it quits on my question for now because I've asked a lot.
No, it's if you've got a question, ask it.
No, I don't have any questions anymore. I would need to think for a moment, but for now I can't come up with any questions.
Okay.
Unless you want me to ask stupid troll questions.
No. I think we've been going for quite some time. We don't need the troll ones.
Okay. So, last call with questions then. Does anybody have anything that they want to ask that's not been discussed already for Stargate Evolution? As we will be doing separate Q&As for Balanced Narcotics and Balanced Cooking Plus. I will take the silence as everybody has either had their questions already answered one way or another, or they haven't been able to think of one. So then we shall wrap up this Stargate Evolution 2 Q&A podcast. And this is Raovake, the community manager. We have DrakeBD, the founder, and we have VenomBD as well. She is HR and also a dev. So if anybody has questions when they watch this video, we can have it set up for the next podcast. And any questions that relate to, again, Balanced Narcotics and Balanced Cooking Plus will be in their own separate Q&A podcasts. We will be setting up time frames for them as well. So if you have questions for those specifically, there are threads in Ask the Community Manager channel in the general category that if you aren't sure if you're going to be able to make it or not, or you think of between now and when the event is set up, feel free to throw those questions into the threads, and they will get addressed whether you are there to participate or not. Again, thank you everybody that took the time out of their day to join in this podcast. And I want to thank DrakeBD and VenomBD, the devs, for joining along as well. So I hope everybody has a good day, and let's wrap it up. You want to say a goodbye, Drake?
Of course, I will say goodbye and thank you everyone for turning up. and hopefully catch you in the next one. Of course, I will say goodbye, and thank you everyone for turning up, and hopefully catch you in the next one.
Do you want to jump in, Venom?
Hello?
Go ahead, jump
Hello.
in, say what you like.
I just want to say thank you, really, for all your support. And also to the Patreons, what have helped us as well. Because we wouldn't have got where we are if it weren't for them.
We won't, and it's much appreciated from everybody in our whole community. You kind of all make this possible.
A lot of the models that aren't Stargate or originally, and even a couple of the ones that are, we've been able to obtain because of the patrons we have. So they really are you guys really are helpful, and it really helps us to progress things further. So I also want to finish this up with saying that the servers we have are open to everybody in the Discord community. If you want to join into them and you're seeing this podcast over on YouTube, all you got to do is jump into the Discord server, and you'll have access to the information to join the servers and test out the beta with us. So again, this was Raovake, the community manager, signing off along with the rest of the team.
Bye.
Bye for now.